The Evolution of Weapons, from Bronze Blades to Nuclear Fire. Chapter 1, The Dawn of Weapons. In the very beginning, humans had nothing but their hands. They discovered stones could be more than just rocks. Sharp flints could cut meat or scrape hides. One day, a human threw a stone and killed a small animal. That moment marked the first intentional use of weapons. Early humans experimented with sticks, rocks, and bones. They learned which materials were stronger and which broke easily. Fire entered the story. It was not just for warmth. Heated stones could harden tips for hunting. Spears appeared, simple yet revolutionary. Hunting now could happen from a distance, increasing survival. Groups began coordinating hunts, sharing tools and techniques. This created early forms of teamwork and strategy. Humans noticed balance was important. A long stick without strength snapped easily. Physics was being learned through trial and error. Humans observed angles, force, and leverage without naming them. Every successful hunt taught lessons about shape, strength, and timing. Some stones were chosen for sharpness, some for weight. Some woods were chosen for flexibility and resilience. Early weapons were about survival, not war. But human imagination began to see other uses. Sticks and stones could protect the group from predators. They could mark territory, scare enemies, and show power. Experiments became more precise over generations. By watching nature, humans learned to mimic claws, fangs, and horns. Sharp points and edges were copied from animals. Every hunt, every fight, was a lesson in engineering. Hands became skilled with tools. Fingers could grip, twist, and throw. Muscle memory developed alongside intellect. Primitive art often depicted hunts, weapons, and warriors. Knowledge passed from elders to young learners. Stone-tipped spears evolved into hafted tools. People learned that attaching a point to a handle improved efficiency. Even small innovations mattered. One notch could prevent slipping. They discovered fire could cook, harden, and even shape tools. Social learning became central. Sharing knowledge made survival easier. Humans were beginning to understand cause and effect. Stones and bones shaped into knives, scrapers, and simple axes. The first real weapon culture emerged, rooted in curiosity and necessity. Survival became intertwined with invention. Early humans were observing, testing, and improving constantly. Physics, material science, and biology quietly influenced design. The very first warriors were also the first engineers. Each generation refined knowledge slightly further. A stone might be sharpened on one edge for precision. A stick might be weighted to improve momentum. By now, hunting was not just survival, it was skill. Cooperation, communication, and planning were essential. Stories of great hunts passed from tribe to tribe. Weapons became symbols of status, knowledge, and power. Even without metals, humans had learned to manipulate materials with purpose. The dawn of weapons was not just a technological revolution, it was a cognitive leap. Thought, observation, and creativity were the tools that shaped survival. By understanding the simplest physics of force, humans survived where others could not. Stone, wood, and fire laid the foundations for millennia of weapon evolution. In these early ages, the story of humanity and its tools began. The first lessons of war, hunting, and innovation were etched into memory. And every small advancement would ripple through generations, creating the path to bronze, iron, and beyond. Chapter 2, Bronze Blades and Early Metallurgy. Around 3300 BCE, humans discovered bronze. Bronze is a mix of copper and tin. The combination made metal stronger than stone or pure copper. Suddenly, humans could craft sharper, more durable blades. Early bronze axes cut wood, meat, and bone more easily. Spears and daggers became more lethal than any stone tool. Metallurgy became both art and science. Blacksmiths learned to melt, pour, and shape metal. Temperature control was critical. Too hot or too cold, the metal would fail. Early smiths experimented constantly, learning through trial and error. Every blade was a lesson in chemistry, though they did not know the term. Bronze weapons allowed armies to form. With stronger tools, larger groups could fight together. Swords were shaped differently for cutting, thrusting, or slashing. people learned balance and weight mattered. A poorly balanced sword could be slower or break in battle. Metallurgy created jobs, miners, smelters, and smiths became essential. Weapon production became a specialized craft. Bronze also improved armor. Shields and helmets could resist blows from stone or bronze weapons. This led to the first real duels of offense versus defense. Skill mattered more than raw strength. Armies began to drill formations, learning discipline and coordination. Leaders realized that technology could decide the outcome of battles. Bronze weapons were not just for fighting, they were status symbols. A well-crafted sword or dagger showed power, wealth, and skill. Trade networks developed to obtain tin and copper. Some civilizations controlled these materials, giving them strategic advantage. Science quietly emerged, knowledge of metal properties, heat, and alloy ratios. Weapons now reflected knowledge, not just brute force. Communities that mastered bronze had advantages over those with stone tools. Villages learned that technology could be as deadly as numbers. Bronze also changed hunting. Stronger blades improved efficiency and safety. Hunting larger animals became possible with bronze spears and knives. Every strike became more predictable and effective. Art and decoration often adorned bronze weapons. Humans began to understand aesthetics and symbolism in tools. This reflected social hierarchy as much as combat needs. Bronze technology spread slowly at first, then rapidly across regions. Some societies resisted adoption, others embraced innovation. The power to create better weapons reshaped the balance of civilizations. Warfare became more organized and strategic. Leaders planned battles considering both skill and equipment. Bronze weapons introduced early metallurgy science. Observations on metal strength, hardness, and shape laid groundwork for future ages. Even without understanding atomic science, humans experimented with ratios and temperatures. These lessons would echo for centuries in iron and steel. Bronze defined the era, a turning point where technology dictated survival and dominance. By shaping bronze, humans shaped history itself. Every sword, dagger, and spear told a story of innovation, skill, and human ingenuity. Chapter 3: Iron Age, Forging Power. Around 1200 BCE, iron replaced bronze in many regions. Iron was harder and more abundant than bronze. Blacksmiths learned to heat iron to high temperatures. Heat treatment made iron stronger and more flexible. Early iron swords could pierce bronze armor. Shields became thicker, and helmets improved. Weapons and armor evolved together, creating a technological arms race. Villages with iron had advantages over neighbors with bronze. Armies became larger and more organized. Strategy grew more important than brute force. Iron allowed for longer swords and heavier spears. Axes could chop wood and fight enemies effectively. Metallurgy advanced, smelting, forging, and tempering became essential skills. Knowledge passed from master to apprentice over generations. Iron tools also improved farming, indirectly strengthening societies. Better food production supported larger armies. Cities expanded with iron's help in construction and defense. The first large-scale iron weapons shifted the balance of power. Science quietly shaped warfare. Humans observed material properties, temperatures, and forces without formal theory. Every strike and bend taught lessons in physics. Villages with iron weapons dominated territories and trade routes. Blacksmiths became powerful and respected. Weapons were no longer just tools, they became symbols of authority. Battles required planning, coordination, and disciplined troops. Iron Age warfare combined skill, strategy, and technology. Armies practiced formations to maximize the effectiveness of their weapons. Cavalry, infantry, and archers had to cooperate more than ever. Strategy involved positioning, timing, and anticipation of enemy moves. Metallurgy progressed, alloys, quenching, and shaping improved strength. Science of iron and steel influenced everything from tools to weapons. Villagers learned to recycle scrap iron into new tools and blades. Iron nails, plows, and weapons transformed daily life and warfare alike. Weapon quality often determined the outcome of battles, not just numbers. Iron swords were more reliable in harsh conditions than bronze. Armor could now withstand stronger blows, making shields and helmets crucial. The Iron Age also brought social changes. Warriors became elite, and smiths gained status. Armies trained rigorously to use longer and heavier weapons effectively. Logistics became essential, supplying metal, maintaining weapons, and training troops. Iron weapons shaped both survival and dominance. This era marked humanity's first mastery over a powerful and abundant metal. Knowledge of iron spread gradually, giving rise to empires. Science, observation, and skill guided technological growth. Iron changed the way humans lived, fought, and thought. Every forged sword, spear, and axe carried lessons of physics and innovation. The Iron Age set the stage for future weapon revolutions. By mastering iron, humans transformed not just war, but civilization itself. Chapter 4, The Bow, Precision from Distance, full 5-minute version. The bow appeared thousands of years ago. At first, it was a simple curve of wood with a string. Early humans discovered tension could launch arrows farther. Arrows allowed hunting from a safe distance. Safety changed hunting strategies dramatically. Early archers experimented with different woods and string materials. Flexibility and strength determined range and power. Some bows were short for speed, others long for distance. Early humans learned about leverage, energy storage, and release. Physics played a role, though they did not call it that. Arrows were made from straight sticks with sharp stone tips. Fletching, or feathers, improved stability in flight. Accuracy improved with practice and observation. Archery became both survival skill and art. Hunting larger animals became possible without close combat. Communities shared knowledge about bow making and arrow tips. Archers became valued members of society. Bows transformed warfare, too. Armies could strike enemies from afar without direct contact. Ambushes and surprise attacks became effective strategies. Defensive tactics adapted to include shields and cover. Longbows, like those in medieval Europe, could pierce armor. Composite bows, used in Asia, stored even more energy. Mounted archers combined speed and distance, dominating battlefields. Archery required skill, timing, and precision. Strategy involved positioning, target selection, and volley timing. Training young archers became essential for survival and war. Archery contests preserved skills and boosted morale. Science, understanding tension, elasticity, and trajectory improved performance. Bow and arrow were a low-tech weapon with high efficiency. Communities without bows struggled to compete. Hunters and warriors learned to read wind, distance, and movement. Arrows could travel hundreds of meters accurately in skilled hands. Bows shaped both hunting and social structure. Warriors with bows gained prestige and influence. Archery influenced the development of military tactics. Coordination of archers and volleys multiplied effectiveness. Large-scale battles relied on massed arrows before close combat. Civilizations advanced knowledge in materials and geometry through archery. Bow making was an early example of applied science. Even without formal study, humans learned mechanics, aerodynamics, and efficiency. The bow bridged hunting, warfare, and technology. It set the stage for new strategies in organized armies. The arrow's flight carried lessons of physics and human ingenuity. Every hit, miss, and practice shot refined skill. Archery remained relevant for centuries, shaping empires and survival alike. Precision from distance became a cornerstone of early military strategy. The bow proved that clever design could surpass brute strength. And so, archery carved its mark on human history, silently powerful and remarkably effective. Chapter 5, Cavalry and Mounted Warfare. Horses changed the battlefield forever. At first, humans rode horses for speed and travel. Soon, they discovered mounted combat could dominate battles. Cavalry combined mobility with deadly force. Riders could charge, retreat, and flank faster than infantry. Early horses were smaller, but strong enough to carry armored riders. The stirrup was a key invention, stabilizing the rider. With stirrups, archers and lancers could fight while mounted. Cavalry tactics required training and coordination. Riders learned balance, timing, and control over their horses. Mounted archers used bows while galloping, combining range and speed. Lances and spears delivered powerful charges that broke enemy lines. Cavalry units could surprise opponents with swift attacks. Armies now had to defend against both foot soldiers and mounted forces. Armor evolved to protect horses as well as riders. Shields, helmets, and chainmail kept riders alive in combat. Cavalry allowed rapid communication across battlefields. Scouts on horseback relayed intelligence quickly. Mounted warriors became elite units, often changing the outcome of battles. Science played a role. Understanding horse physiology and weapon balance was essential. Strategy now included speed, terrain, and timing. Cavalry could retreat, regroup, and strike again effectively. Logistics were crucial. Horses needed food, water, and care. Well-trained horses and riders required constant practice. Cavalry was expensive but highly effective, giving advantages to wealthy kingdoms. Armies that ignored cavalry suffered defeats. Combined arms tactics began. Infantry, archers, and cavalry worked together. Cavalry dominated plains and open terrain, forcing armies to adapt. Siege warfare adapted too. Cavalry could intercept reinforcements or flank defenders. Mounted units required intelligence, reading enemy movement and choosing the right moment to strike. Cavalry charges could break morale and scatter foot soldiers. Mounted archers perfected hit-and-run tactics, using speed to avoid counterattacks. Elite knights in Europe and samurai in Japan were examples of cavalry excellence. Cavalry shaped the rise of empires by enabling rapid conquest. Horses became symbols of power and prestige in society. Mounted warfare influenced trade, transport, and territorial control. Leaders invested in breeding, training, and equipping horses and riders. Cavalry taught lessons in physics, momentum, balance, and force amplified impact. Armies learned that speed, timing, and surprise were as lethal as weapons. Cavalry transformed the battlefield into a dynamic and unpredictable space. Mounted units remained decisive for centuries, shaping military history and strategy. By combining skill, speed, and technology, cavalry defined the era of horse warfare. Chapter 6: The Age of Castles and Siege Weapons. As societies grew, people built castles for protection. Stone walls became massive and difficult to break. Castles were not just homes, they were fortresses. Armies needed new weapons to overcome defenses. Battering rams struck gates with tremendous force. Catapults hurled large stones over walls. Trebuchets improved on catapults, using counterweights for longer range. Early cannons appeared, testing metallurgy skills. Siege engines required skilled engineers to build and operate. Physics-guided design, leverage, tension, and momentum mattered. Soldiers learned timing. A trebuchet had to release at the perfect moment. Walls were strengthened in response, thickened, angled, and reinforced. Siege warfare became a science of attack and defense. Moats, drawbridges, and towers enhanced fortifications. Attackers studied weak points, planning coordinated assaults. Archers defended walls while soldiers operated siege engines. Engineers experimented with materials, weights, and angles. Stone and wood were carefully selected for maximum efficiency. Strategy now included preparation, gathering supplies, building machines, and planning attacks. Siege weapons demonstrated early physics principles: energy transfer, tension, and motion. Cannons and early gunpowder devices began to appear in the late Middle Ages. Fire could soften walls or intimidate defenders. Castles influenced society, concentrating power and protecting elites. Armies adapted, new formations, tactics, and coordinated strikes emerged. Siege warfare demanded patience. Battles could last weeks or months. Attackers and defenders both relied on technology, skill, and resourcefulness. Education in engineering became valuable. Understanding mechanics saved lives. Trebuchets could launch objects over hundreds of meters. Catapults could crush gates or throw flaming projectiles. Defensive walls evolved with towers, arrow slits, and angled barriers. Siege weapons forced innovation: stronger wood, better ropes, and counterweights. Armies combined infantry, archers, and engineers to succeed. Coordination between units became a hallmark of effective attacks. Science and observation guided improvements in weapon design. Castles and siege weapons shaped strategy, economy, and politics. Controlling a castle could secure land, trade routes, and influence. Every siege was a lesson in mechanics, materials, and human ingenuity. Soldiers learned that survival depended on both skill and technology. Siege warfare marked the beginning of organized, long-term military campaigns. By mastering both attack and defense, civilizations gained advantages over rivals. Castles and siege weapons demonstrated the growing link between technology and power. The Age of Stone fortifications taught humans that engineering and strategy were inseparable. From rams to trebuchets to early cannons, ingenuity determined the outcome of conflicts. Science, observation, and human creativity combined to shape the medieval battlefield. Chapter 7, Gunpowder, the Dawn of Firearms / Gunpowder arrived from China around the 9th century. At first, it was used for fireworks and signals. Soon, humans discovered its destructive potential. Early cannons were built to break castle walls. Explosive power changed the meaning of siege warfare. A cannonball could shatter stone in seconds. Soldiers learned to calculate angles and distances for accuracy. Chemistry guided early gunpowder mixtures, saltpeter, charcoal, and sulfur. Matchlock firearms appeared in Europe in the 15th century. A slow-burning match ignited the gunpowder, firing the bullet. Firearms required less strength than bows, making them accessible to more soldiers. Armies began to train around timing and reloading. Infantry formations evolved, volleys of gunfire replaced single strikes. Armies had to protect shooters while they reloaded. Early guns were inaccurate at long range but deadly at close distances. Cannons and firearms forced castles to adapt. Walls became lower, thicker, and angled to deflect cannonballs. Armies combined artillery, infantry, and cavalry in coordinated strategies. Science quietly shaped warfare. Observation of ballistics, gunpowder properties, and materials improved outcomes. Metallurgy advanced to make barrels that could withstand repeated firing. Gunpowder allowed smaller armies to compete with larger forces. Weapons were no longer just about skill, chemistry and materials played a major role. Firearms spread rapidly across continents, changing the balance of power. Early soldiers had to understand not just aim, but timing, ignition, and powder quality. Siege warfare became both mechanical and chemical in nature. Cannons could fire iron or stone, creating devastating impacts. Armies now needed engineers and trained gunners. Gunpowder weapons encouraged fortification innovation, bastions, angled walls, and moats. Strategy shifted, prolonged bombardments weakened defenders before assaults. Weapons became tools of both terror and precision. Firearms altered social structure. Peasants could wield guns, reducing reliance on elite archers or knights. The battlefield now required coordination, discipline, and technical knowledge. Gunpowder influenced global trade. Saltpeter, sulfur, and metals became strategic resources. Exploration and conquest were fueled by firearms. Chemistry and physics quietly guided the design of early weapons. Every cannon, musket, and matchlock was a lesson in energy, force, and ignition. Gunpowder marked the transition from medieval to modern warfare. Technology now dictated strategy more than sheer numbers or brute strength. Armies that mastered gunpowder gained dominance across continents. From castles to open fields, gunpowder reshaped the world. The dawn of firearms proved that innovation could change history. Science, skill, and strategy combined to create a new era of combat. Chapter 8, Muskets and Bayonets. By the 16th century, muskets became common on battlefields. Muskets were long guns, more accurate than early matchlocks. They could penetrate armor at close to medium range. Soldiers added bayonets, turning firearms into spears. Infantry could now fight in both ranged and melee combat. Muskets required training, loading, aiming, and firing efficiently. Reloading was slow, so armies used volleys to maintain continuous fire. Line formations became standard in Europe. Soldiers fired in ranks, one after another, creating a wall of bullets. Discipline was crucial. Chaos could ruin volleys. Bayonets allowed infantry to defend against cavalry. Combined arms tactics emerged. Muskets, pikemen, and cavalry worked together. Muskets shifted power from knights to organized infantry. Armor gradually became lighter as firearms made heavy protection less effective. Chemistry improved gunpowder for higher velocity and reliability. Soldiers learned ballistics, wind, distance, and gunpowder quality affected accuracy. Armies drilled constantly to synchronize volleys and movements. Muskets enabled smaller armies to face larger forces with strategy. European empires expanded with muskets, conquering distant lands. Trade routes carried muskets and gunpowder across continents. Muskets shaped social hierarchy, well-trained infantry gained prestige. Tactics evolved, flanking, volley fire, and entrenchments became essential. Cities and forts had to adapt to firearms, reinforcing walls and gates. Battles lasted longer, with planning and supply lines becoming crucial. Weapon standardization became important. Identical calibers simplified logistics. Soldiers maintained muskets carefully, cleaning prevented misfires. Armies learned to coordinate muskets with cannons for maximum effect. Early muskets were inaccurate, but training reduced errors over time. Science guided innovations in metallurgy for stronger barrels. Soldiers carried powder, balls, and tools for battlefield repairs. Muskets influenced strategy, controlling high ground improved range. Morale depended on discipline and effective firing. Infantry formations could repel cavalry charges with proper use of muskets and bayonets. Strategy now balanced distance, timing, and human coordination. Muskets bridged medieval warfare and modern gunpowder tactics. The battlefield became a mixture of firepower, skill, and planning. Armies that mastered muskets dominated over untrained forces. Every shot, every formation, demonstrated lessons in physics and precision. Muskets and bayonets shaped the era of gunpowder warfare. Innovation, training, and strategy proved more decisive than numbers alone. The musket era marked a turning point. Firearms defined military power and social change. Chapter 9, Rifles, Precision Revolution. By the 18th century, muskets began to evolve into rifles. Rifles had grooved barrels, called rifling, which spun the bullet. This increased accuracy dramatically. Soldiers could now hit targets at greater distances. Early rifles were slower to load, but deadly when aimed carefully. Snipers emerged as strategic assets. Riflemen required patience, observation, and skill. Infantry tactics adapted to include marksmanship. Mini-balls, a new type of bullet, improved speed and impact. Science of ballistics became practical knowledge for soldiers. Wind, distance, and bullet spin affected accuracy. Armies trained shooters to account for these factors. Rifles shifted power. Fewer skilled soldiers could outperform larger forces. Battlefields now valued precision over massed fire. Cover, camouflage, and stealth became important. Leaders realized strategic positioning could determine the outcome. Rifle technology influenced colonial wars and territorial expansion. Fortifications adapted to long-range shooters. Scouts and sharpshooters became crucial for reconnaissance. Weapon quality became decisive. Poorly made rifles were useless. Metallurgy advanced to produce stronger, lighter barrels. Soldiers maintained rifles carefully to avoid misfires. Tactics evolved. Skirmishes, ambushes, and sharpshooting dominated engagements. Rifles combined skill, patience, and technology. Massed infantry fire was less effective against precise shooters. Military manuals began teaching marksmanship and range estimation. Science-informed training, understanding bullet trajectory and gravity effects. Rifles encouraged disciplined, coordinated, and intelligent fighting. Small units could harass larger formations effectively. Strategy shifted from brute force to calculated strikes. Armies integrated rifles with artillery and cavalry for combined operations. Leaders studied terrain, elevation, and wind to optimize rifle use. Skirmish lines allowed mobility while maximizing firepower. Rifles changed psychological warfare. Fear of long-range shots affected morale. Training emphasized patience, precision, and observation. Shooters learned to use natural cover and concealment. Battles now required intelligence and planning as much as courage. Rifle accuracy forced innovations in fortifications and armor. Infantry could now challenge cavalry from distance. Rifle technology accelerated in the 19th century with breech-loading systems. Repeaters allowed faster fire while maintaining accuracy. Science and engineering guided every advancement. Rifles revolutionized warfare, shaping both strategy and society. Precision replaced sheer numbers as the decisive factor in many battles. Every bullet demonstrated lessons in physics, mechanics, and human ingenuity. Rifles marked the beginning of modern small arms and tactical evolution. Chapter 10: Artillery, Dominance from Afar. Artillery changed battlefields forever. Cannons became larger and more powerful in the 18th and 19th centuries. Armies could destroy fortifications from hundreds of meters away. Mortars and howitzers allowed high-arcing shots over walls. Artillery required engineers and careful calculations. Soldiers learned angles, distance, and projectile weight for accuracy. Science guided design. Gunpowder, barrel length, and cannonball size affected power. Artillery transformed strategy. Cities, forts, and armies needed new defense tactics. Early artillery crews trained to reload, aim, and fire in coordinated teams. Cannons could fire solid shot, explosive shells, or grape shot. Timing was crucial. Reload too slowly, and the enemy could attack. Artillery required logistics, transporting heavy guns and storing gunpowder safely. Fortifications adapted, angled walls, earthworks, and reinforced structures. Artillery forced armies to think in terms of range and positioning. Battles became more deadly and destructive. Combined arms were essential: infantry, cavalry, and artillery coordinated attacks. Science and physics guided cannonball trajectories and explosive force. Engineers calculated distance, angle, and powder charge for maximum effect. Artillery gave smaller armies an advantage over larger formations. Psychological impact was significant. The roar of cannons demoralized enemies. Artillery influenced the outcome of major wars, including Napoleonic campaigns. Weapons were no longer just personal skill, they required teamwork and technology. Artillery could break enemy formations before infantry engaged. Armies learned to protect guns while maintaining firepower. Cannons could fire over obstacles, reaching unseen targets. Strategy now included indirect fire, bombardments, and sieges from a distance. Science of metallurgy, chemistry, and mechanics improved cannon design. Artillery units studied range tables and wind conditions to improve accuracy. Innovations included rifled barrels for precision and explosive shells. Armies adapted formations to reduce vulnerability to cannon fire. Artillery shaped fortification design, moats, bastions, and earthworks. Supply chains became critical. Moving heavy cannons required planning. Coordination with infantry and cavalry increased battlefield complexity. Artillery marked the transition from personal combat to industrialized warfare. Battles became more destructive, requiring careful planning and strategy. Every cannonball demonstrated lessons in physics and engineering. Artillery proved that knowledge, technology, and preparation could outweigh numbers. Armies that mastered artillery dominated battlefields across Europe and beyond. This era marked the rise of firepower as the decisive factor in war. Strategy, engineering, and science now determined the outcome of conflicts. Chapter 11: Rifled Artillery and Explosives. In the 19th century, artillery evolved with rifled barrels. Rifling spun the projectile, improving accuracy over long distances. Shells replaced solid cannonballs, increasing damage. Explosives inside shells created devastating blasts. Artillery crews needed precision, aim, angle, and powder charge mattered. Science and mathematics guided calculations. Artillery no longer just crushed walls, it targeted troops and fortifications precisely. Mobility improved. Horse-drawn and later steam-powered artillery moved faster. Battlefield strategy changed. Indirect fire could hit unseen targets. Explosives required careful handling, mistakes were deadly. Metallurgy advanced to produce stronger barrels that could withstand repeated fire. Engineers calculated trajectories using early physics principles. Longer-range cannons forced changes in fort design, lower walls, angled bastions, and earthworks. Artillery coordination became critical. Infantry and cavalry relied on suppression fire. Timing and positioning determined battlefield success. Artillery influenced the outcome of major conflicts, including the American Civil War and European wars. Crews trained constantly to maintain speed and accuracy. Explosive shells shattered fortifications and morale alike. Observation balloons and scouts improved targeting. Artillery taught soldiers the value of preparation, precision, and patience. Science played a key role. chemistry of explosives, mechanics of rifling, and force calculations. Armies learned that technology could outweigh numbers. Rifled artillery forced changes in defensive strategies and trench designs. Indirect fire allowed attacks from hidden positions. Coordination with infantry and cavalry multiplied effectiveness. Artillery now shaped tactics, logistics, and engineering. Supply chains became vital, moving shells, powder, and cannons efficiently. Every successful shot demonstrated applied physics, energy, momentum, and trajectory. Artillery became a tool of both destruction and strategy. Smaller armies with superior firepower could dominate larger forces. Leaders studied range, wind, and terrain to maximize effect. Explosives made siege warfare faster and more lethal. Rifled artillery set the stage for industrialized warfare in the 20th century. The battlefield evolved from close combat to calculated, long-range destruction. Knowledge, planning, and technology became more decisive than sheer courage. Artillery proved that innovation could redefine strategy and survival. Each shell carried lessons in physics, engineering, and human ingenuity. Rifled artillery and explosives marked a turning point in military history. From the battlefield to the home front, their influence reshaped war forever. Chapter 12, Machine Guns, the Age of Rapid Fire. The late 19th century introduced the machine gun. Unlike rifles, it could fire many bullets in seconds. Early models, like the Maxim gun, revolutionized warfare. Soldiers no longer needed to reload after every shot. Massed infantry charges became far deadlier. Strategy shifted, machine guns could control entire battlefields. Trenches and fortifications became essential to survive. Machine guns required crews to operate efficiently. Cooling mechanisms, like water jackets, prevented overheating. Artillery and machine guns worked together for maximum effect. Defensive positions could stop larger attacking forces. Rapid fire changed military planning, slow-moving formations were vulnerable. Armies adapted, trenches, barbed wire, and bunkers appeared. Machine guns influenced tactics in colonial wars and World War I. Soldiers learned the importance of positioning, cover, and teamwork. Science and engineering guided design, recoil, barrel strength, and feeding mechanisms mattered. Logistics became more complex, ammunition supply was critical. Smaller units could hold ground against superior numbers with proper machine gun placement. Strategy now included suppression fire to protect advancing troops. Psychological impact was enormous, the sound and speed of bullets intimidated enemies. Machine guns taught the value of fire discipline and coordination. Soldiers studied angles, distances, and fields of fire. Rapid-fire weapons forced armies to rethink offense and defense. Mobility became important, lighter machine guns allowed faster deployment. Innovation continued, belt-fed systems increased sustained fire. Machine guns influenced trench warfare, which dominated World War I. Technology outweighed sheer numbers on the battlefield. Infantry adapted, zigzag trenches reduced vulnerability to machine gun fire. Artillery and machine guns combined for devastating effect. Observation and reconnaissance became crucial for targeting. Science guided improvements in cooling, barrel design, and rate of fire. Machine guns changed the psychology of combat, fear and discipline became central. Armies learned that careful planning, technology, and teamwork saved lives. Strategy now included suppressive fire, coordinated assaults, and flanking. Machine guns were a precursor to modern automatic weapons. Every bullet demonstrated lessons in physics, engineering, and applied science. Rapid-fire weapons marked the beginning of industrialized warfare. Machine guns proved that firepower, precision, and technology could dominate the battlefield. Warfare had entered a new era, speed, volume, and strategy were decisive. Machine guns reshaped tactics, defense, and human experience on the battlefield. Chapter 13, Tanks, the Armored Revolution. Tanks first appeared in World War I. They combined armor, firepower, and mobility. Tanks could cross trenches and rough terrain. Early designs were slow but unstoppable against infantry. Soldiers inside were protected from bullets and shrapnel. Machine guns and cannons mounted on tanks increased battlefield impact. Tanks changed strategy, no longer just infantry and artillery. Combined arms became essential, tanks, infantry, and artillery worked together. Engineers experimented with armor thickness and engine power. Track systems allowed tanks to move over mud, craters, and obstacles. Tanks broke the deadlock of trench warfare. Psychological impact was huge. Soldiers feared the rumble and firepower of tanks. Early tanks were vulnerable to artillery and mines. Crews learned tactics, hold-down positions, flanking, and teamwork. Tanks encouraged new offensive strategies. They supported infantry assaults and suppressed enemy defenses. Tank design improved rapidly. Speed, armor, and armament increased. Observation and reconnaissance guided tank movements. Science played a role. Mechanics, armor metallurgy, and engine power were key. Coordination became central. Tanks needed infantry protection to avoid being isolated. Combined firepower from multiple tanks could overwhelm positions. Armored warfare forced nations to innovate quickly. Anti-tank weapons appeared, creating a technological arms race. Tanks taught lessons in mobility, protection, and firepower integration. Mechanized units became decisive in battle planning. Engineers studied weight distribution, track design, and engine efficiency. Tanks allowed breakthroughs where infantry alone could not succeed. They influenced morale, strategy, and the pace of war. Tank crews required training, communication, and coordination under fire. World War II saw mass production and strategic deployment of tanks. Blitzkrieg tactics combined tanks, mechanized infantry, and air support. Tank warfare became a science. Speed, armor, and firepower had to be balanced. Every engagement taught lessons in mechanics, strategy, and teamwork. Tanks reshaped the battlefield from static lines to dynamic maneuvers. Armies with effective tanks dominated both offense and defense. The armored revolution marked a shift from traditional to mechanized warfare. Knowledge of engineering, physics, and strategy determined tank effectiveness. Tanks proved that mobility and protection could redefine combat. The era of armored warfare had begun, changing history forever. Chapter 14, Airplanes, the sky becomes the battlefield. Airplanes entered warfare in the early 20th century. At first, planes were used for reconnaissance and observation. They could spot enemy positions and direct artillery fire. Pilots became the eyes of the battlefield. Soon, airplanes were armed with machine guns. Dogfights in the sky began, testing skill and reflexes. Early planes were fragile, made of wood and canvas. Pilots learned about speed, maneuverability, and altitude. Bombs were added to target supply lines and fortifications. Airplanes changed strategy. Battles now had a vertical dimension. Observation planes increased battlefield awareness dramatically. Science played a role. Aerodynamics, lift, and engine performance mattered. Pilots had to understand weather, wind, and flight mechanics. Airplanes forced new defensive strategies, anti-aircraft guns and camouflage. Tactical bombing required careful planning and precision. Fighter planes protected bombers during missions. Air warfare became a mix of skill, strategy, and technology. Aircraft engines improved rapidly, increasing speed and range. Reconnaissance flights reduced uncertainty and guided troop movements. Dogfights tested human reflexes, coordination, and tactics. Airplanes influenced both ground and naval warfare. Observation and intelligence became as important as firepower. Armies learned to coordinate air and ground forces effectively. Bombing raids targeted supply depots, railways, and infrastructure. Science guided improvements in aerodynamics, engines, and weapons. Airplanes forced a rethink of defensive positions and troop deployment. Pilots became elite soldiers, trained in both flying and combat tactics. Strategy now included altitude, speed, and surprise from the air. Airplanes expanded the battlefield beyond geography. Skies were new territory. Mobility, observation, and firepower combined to redefine warfare. Air superiority became a decisive factor in battles. The psychological impact was enormous. Unseen enemies above created fear. Airplanes demonstrated lessons in physics, engineering, and human skill. Aerial reconnaissance saved lives by revealing enemy movements. Bomber and fighter tactics required coordination, planning, and precision. The sky became a new dimension of strategy and combat. Airplanes marked the beginning of modern, multi-domain warfare. Knowledge, technology, and human skill determined outcomes in the air. Every mission taught lessons in flight dynamics, ballistics, and strategy. Airplanes reshaped war, speed, altitude, and observation were now as crucial as firepower. Chapter 15, Submarines, the Silent Hunters. Submarines transformed naval warfare. At first, they were small and slow, used mainly for stealth attacks. Submarines could move underwater unseen by enemies. Torpedoes became their main weapon, capable of sinking ships silently. Early crews faced dangerous conditions, tight spaces and limited oxygen. Submarines required specialized training for navigation and combat. Strategy shifted, navies now had to watch above and below the surface. Submarines targeted supply lines and warships, disrupting logistics. Science-guided design, hull strength, ballast systems, and propulsion mattered. Early submarines used diesel engines on the surface and batteries underwater. Stealth became their greatest advantage. Submarines forced navies to adopt anti-submarine tactics. Depth charges and sonar were developed in response. Submarine warfare required patience, precision, and coordination. Torpedoes had to be aimed carefully, accounting for speed and distance. Submarines influenced both world wars dramatically. Small crews managed complex systems in confined conditions. Observation, timing, and calculation were critical for success. Science of buoyancy and pressure guided submarine design. Stealth allowed smaller forces to threaten larger fleets effectively. Submarines taught lessons in strategy, patience, and innovation. Underwater combat introduced a new dimension to warfare. Submarines could hide, strike, and disappear quickly. Naval commanders had to consider hidden threats below the surface. Submarines changed trade, supply routes, and naval dominance. Technology dictated survival, sonar, depth, and speed were critical. Engineering improved hulls, engines, and torpedo systems. Submarines operated in total darkness, relying on instruments and skill. Precision and coordination were as important as firepower. Submarines demonstrated lessons in physics, mechanics, and stealth strategy. Their presence forced new defensive measures, convoys, patrols, and countermeasures. Submarines influenced naval strategy and global conflicts. Silent hunting required intelligence, patience, and tactical thinking. Every patrol taught lessons in navigation, stealth, and combat. Submarines reshaped naval warfare, unseen threats could control the seas. Strategy now extended underwater, control of oceans depended on knowledge, technology, and skill. Submarines proved that stealth, planning, and innovation could dominate even the largest fleets. Chapter 16, Aircraft Carriers, Floating Airbases. Aircraft carriers transformed naval strategy in the 20th century. They allowed planes to take off and land at sea. Fleets could project air power anywhere in the ocean. Carriers became mobile bases, extending range far beyond land. Fighter planes, bombers, and reconnaissance aircraft operated from these ships. Coordination between pilots, deck crews, and fleet commanders was essential. Carriers required advanced technology, catapults, arrestor wires, and radar. Airplanes on carriers could strike enemy ships, ports, and infrastructure. Strategy shifted, naval battles were no longer just ship-to-ship combat. Aircraft carriers enabled surprise attacks over vast distances. The deck became a hub of activity, launching, landing, refueling, and rearming planes. Pilots trained intensively for takeoff, landing, and aerial combat. Carriers required protection, escorts and anti-air defenses were crucial. Science-guided flight operations, wind, speed, and deck angle affected landings. Logistics were vital, fuel, munitions, and spare parts had to be managed efficiently. Carriers became symbols of naval dominance. They changed the outcome of battles in the Pacific during World War II. Carrier-based aircraft could strike first, before enemy ships even saw them. Strategy now included air superiority, reconnaissance, and rapid response. Carriers increased the importance of intelligence and communication. Pilots relied on navigation, radar, and coordination to succeed. Aircraft carriers forced navies to adapt, mobility and protection were key. Fleet commanders had to plan multi-dimensional operations. Air power projected from carriers reshaped naval doctrine. Every launch and landing required precision and teamwork. Carriers taught lessons in mechanics, aerodynamics, and operational strategy. They allowed concentrated power at strategic points on the ocean. Aircraft carriers influenced global conflicts, diplomacy, and deterrence. Technology, skill, and coordination dictated carrier effectiveness. Modern carriers integrate aircraft, missiles, and advanced electronics. Carriers reshaped the scale and scope of naval warfare. Strategy now relied on mobility, air superiority, and rapid projection of force. Aircraft carriers proved that control of the skies and seas depended on innovation and coordination. Every carrier operation combined engineering